Hey, all.
What's up, amigo?
How are you doing?
Oh, it's a Thursday in paradise.
Excellent. Excellent.
Hey, if you know, what's the state rep from South City that was here for the anti-Semitic? Heather something?
Heather?
I thought her name was Heather.
South City.
Yeah, she's around Bevo, I think she said. She's pre-filing a bill for issues around disabilities and work opportunities. And I gave her my card.
Oh, could that be, does she have a disability?
Yes.
It's Bridget, maybe? Could it be Bridget?
Could-
I'll look it up in 1 second.
You're going to be her expert, right, Greg?
I might be. She took my card. I haven't heard from her. Topic of special needs came up and she asked me if I knew anything about that. And I said, well, actually just a little bit. And employment issues for the people with special needs. And I said, yep, just a little bit about that too. I just couldn't remember her name.
I will look her up right now. I think it's Bridget, but let me see.
Maybe it's Bridget. Could be. She was
Hello,
lovely.
everyone. Happy end of year.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Good thing we canceled our trip to Israel, huh?
Would have been canceled either way.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all, this is Deborah from JCRC. I'm in transit, so I just wanted to say hello, let you know I was here.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Yes. Ellen, where are you?
Because that's not fake wind, like in
Yeah.
a fake background.
No, it's not fake wind. I could turn it on and you can see the palm trees. I'm in Florida, actually, sitting outside, but I'm muting it because they just started, of course, cutting the grass. So I will listen and pop in as necessary.
Uh-huh.
Try not to suffer
Hey.
too badly down there.
I
with that wind.
got 5 Zoom calls today. I'm going to do them all outside.
It's sunny here, at least.
Yeah.
Hey, Ruth, how are you? Hey, Joan. Hey, Jen.
All right, well, it's 10:03. Got a pretty light group this morning, but always the key
Surprise.
players. The regulars always show up for happy hour. So good to see you all. David's on. I would love to tell you I asked Brian if we had an agenda, so I'm just going to turn over to Brian.
We do not, although I think the idea of happy hour is a really, really great suggestion. And maybe this year we should talk about that. So we don't have a specific agenda. I know a couple people have some things to say. Let's let David do his piece so that he doesn't have to sit through anything else that we might want to talk about, although he usually does join us. David, how are things for you and at the Capitol?
Things are fine. And just so you know, Greg, it's Bridget Walsh Moore is the member of the House. And if you need information, I can get that for you. Just shoot me a text and I'll respond to it. Well, things are a little quiet. So I'll give you a little bit of inside baseball politics, since that seems to be more interesting than anything else. I'm not sure I have a ton like policy-wise to go through, other than to let you know we've got over 700 bills that have been pre-filed. Is Karen on the line? Because she's probably okay. So the process we go through is I try and get up early in the morning could be on the Sabbath, and for those that will be offended by that, it's definitely not on the Sabbath. But I get up early in the morning and just read bills on a Saturday, and then I kind of accumulate them into a reading stack. And I've got 2 stacks that I accumulate them electronically. One is issues that I think clients need to look at because I think that they are either going to affect their operations or provide an opportunity, or things that are close enough to what they do that I want them to be aware of them. And that's a fairly small list. Like for the Federation, that might be 200 bills in a year, maybe a few more than that. And a lot of them will repeat each other. And then the other stack is just all the stuff I'm going to watch on everybody's behalf. And that's going to be a much wider universe of bills, require a lot less work by the client, us. And so I forward that initial stack to Karen when I get them done. So we forwarded 2 of those, and she'll work through them at her leisure and distribute them out to folks. You know, Ellen, you'll get some on issues that she thinks are going to be affecting you. And I know you're already looking at issues. Some of them will go to JCRC, some of them will go to JCC and others. So those will be coming your way. And for those, we've asked for you guys to comment and provide some feedback. So we have some direction here, you know, and sometimes it'll be, thanks for sending it, but we don't care. Sometimes it'll be, oh boy, you know, this is a real problem. And then everything in between. So that's the process we work through. We do our best to stay on top of the bills. We are on top of them right now, but they can kind of come in floods. And so depending on all the other things that are happening, it can be hard to stay in touch. This will end in March, but the biggest chunk will happen now in pre-filing. January, when they all come in, we'll get a big flood, and then we'll get a big flood before filing closes in March. Folks will be like wanting to get bills in. And then as we go through, you'll be getting tracking reports, Brian and Karen, that will be distributed to folks. Every couple of weeks, you'll get a tracking report, and that's just a snapshot. If you have an interest in a bill, you can kind of look down the list. You can say, oh, here it is. It's, you know, it's still sitting in committee or whatever. So that's our process. We've got almost 800 bills filed. You can imagine that we've got dozens of bills on CRT. Those bills run the gamut from just basically making an affirmation that schools will not teach things that, and they have a list of things, right, that are inherently racist, that suggest that somebody's inherently racist or biased because they happen to be in one or more ethnic groups, so on and so forth. And I'm calling that like CRT light, because it doesn't say CRT, it doesn't talk about the 1619 project, it's not overly restrictive on the district. And then I go all the way to CRT heavy, which is straight CRT, no 1619, you know, book burnings, which is not book burnings exactly, but, you know, a lot of like restrictive policies, a ton of restricted policies on school districts to make all their curriculum available to parents, and that's kind of okay, but like they'll go to several different lengths to do that, and giving options for parents to sue districts and things like that. So it's like real heavy over there. And then a bunch of stuff in the middle. The Democrats have tried to co-opt this issue. JJ Rizzo filed a parental bill of rights that basically stipulates that, you know, parents have the right to know what their kids are being taught. Parents have the right to have input in that kind of stuff. And I think that represents an effort for the Democrats to try and seize back control of this conversation around, you know, parental involvement in schools. There were a whole bunch of missteps through the campaign where people said things that were interpreted to mean parents shouldn't be involved in their kids' educations by Democrats, especially in the Virginia race. And so I think Democrats are trying to respond to that politically and come up with a middle ground. So that's all the CRT stuff. It's all out there. Abortion bills, as you can imagine, are hot and heavy. We've got everything from no money for any abortion organization, their affiliate, their associate. Associate is a little lean, a little loose, and all the way to some Medicaid restrictions and things like that. So we fully expect that. Maps are moving along. We expect maps to be done. For those that are worried about congressional redistricting, we fully expect there to be a 6-2 map, 6 Republican, 2 Democrats, not a 7-1-1. I'm sorry, 6-1-1 or a 7-1 map. There's no way to do that. There's some haggling along state Senate maps, but it doesn't appear that St. Louis County will change dramatically at this point. The real question will be whether or not the legislature can get a map approved on the congressional districts, which is their job, and to get an emergency clause so the map goes into effect prior to the primary, which is before August 28th, which there's a real question whether they can get that or not. So that's going to subsume us. We know we have a massive supplemental spending bill that's going to be coming out. The governor would like it on his desk in February. And that's going to be probably $4 to $5 billion worth of supplemental spending. $2 billion will go into education. Roughly $2 billion will be spending authority for Medicaid expansion. Almost all of that will be federal money, and the ability to spend federal money. So those are the things that we're going to be really paying attention to, that are going to spend a lot of time on. We expect, as part of the Medicaid expansion supplemental, for there to be some level of games being played with trying to get the Senate to approve a joint resolution that goes back to the ballot to strip certain language out of the ballot on Medicaid expansion, or create work requirements or some other thing, so politically there can be a win that's out there. So that's kind of what's going on. I said I wasn't going to talk about that, but I figure what the heck. The second is kind of on a political level right now. There has been a tremendous amount of discussions and meetings in the Senate itself. The Senate Republican caucus, and you've heard me talk about this a lot, is divided into two camps. It's really divided into three camps, but let's call it two. One is what the folks that are in this group want to call the conservative caucus, which is 6 to 8 members of folks that are pretty far along the right, Senators Koenig, Senators Eigel, Senators Onder, folks like that. And then the remaining, roughly, depending on how many you want to put in the camp, 16 moderate Republicans. And when I say moderate, I mean everything from what I would consider to be truly moderate, like a Lincoln Huff from Springfield, all the way through to a conservative governing Republican. And so yesterday, that group of Republicans met in the Capitol. It was telegraphed to the conservatives, they were not invited, to talk about moving forward with a more moderate governance stance in reestablishing leadership. And last year, you probably heard me allude to the idea that the wheels fell off on numerous occasions in the Senate, where the very conservative ultra minority was dictating policy on all kinds of issues. And it was having an impact, not just on like the high profile issues like abortion or education, but it was actually having an impact on people getting basic stuff done for their districts, which, folks live and die on. And the real problem is there's a group of about 10 Republican senators that they're just weak. I mean, they're just not very strong, and they will follow the strongest person in the room. That's just the way it works. People think just because somebody gets elected to an office like that, that somehow they're a leader. They're not. They just happen to get people to vote for them. Leadership is an entirely different skill set as a general rule. And so we see that. And it looks to me like Senator Rowden, who's not running for anything else now, he's out for his congressional seat. He doesn't have another Senate run, possibly a statewide run in the future, but not now. He, and I talk to him regularly. He's a good friend of mine. He's willing to take some really hard votes. He's willing to step up and be that leader. He wants to be the pro tem for 2 years. So he told people yesterday that he was going to take the hard fights. He was going to try and cover people and not force them to have to take hard votes. And so folks are pretty optimistic about how that looks. I will tell you, as I talk to my friends, it's kind of like, okay, we've heard this before, so let's see what happens now. In the House, we have a lot of shifting around right now. We technically have a moderate who's going to be assuming the speaker's role in the House on the Republican side, but he's not the strongest moderate. He's a friend, but I don't know that I would consider him to be a strong, like a rock in terms of holding up a moderate position on governing. And we have like $6.5 billion in fund balance that's coming in that can be spent as basically general revenue. So like all of these conversations are about that. Today, budget and appropriations folks are meeting with the governor's office today to talk about spending ARPA dollars. And I expect that to be a fairly good discussion. I don't know that we'll get anything out of it. I think I mentioned to you, the governor's office really wants all this spending authority to go in buckets so that they can apportion it out from their departments as grant programs. Members of the legislature want to have their fingerprints on it, so they want programs and projects. I think we'll end up somewhere in the middle in this conversation. So that's a little bit of the inside baseball. If anybody is really interested in the US Senate race, the the politics on that are going to be really fun to watch here. Billy Long, who's the 7th congressional member from Springfield, has now taken aim on Eric Schmidt, Vicky Hartzler, and Eric Greitens, and he's starting to fire, lots and lots of shots at those guys. So now we're starting to heat up to see who's going to become the front runner. I still think Greitens is the front runner at the moment for the nomination. I think if he ends up getting in, and this is my very outside, nobody agrees with me, everybody thinks I'm crazy prediction. I think if Greitens looks like he's the nominee come January, February, March, then I think Jay Nixon resigns from Dow Bennett and becomes the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate. I think that's where we end up. And I think actually he's the only Democrat that has a shot at beating Greitens for this thing. But I still think it's Greitens. Greitens I think he's got a 22 to 24% floor in terms of the percentage of Republican primary voters that will vote with him. And in a 5-way primary, all he has to do is pick up another 6 or 7% and he's good to go. So I think he's going to be the guy. That's
All right.
what I got. I'll shut up.
All you policy and political wonks, now's your opportunity. Jump in with questions and anything else.
Something for
David.
everybody.
Hey, David,
Yeah.
I understand Mary Elizabeth Coleman pre-filed a whole bunch of bills this morning, one of
I
which I believe is a model on the Texas abortion law.
Oh yeah.
And then she's doing some stuff on voting as well. And we're seeing a lot of voting laws
A lot of voting
to
bills.
fix the unbroken system.
Yeah,
So
so you'll see, Ellen, there are a couple of very long technical bills that are out there, right? That set up some commissions and do some other stuff. I tried to read through them. This is not an area of law that I understand all that well. And so I tried to read through them, and it looked to me like the real long ones were actually fairly thoughtful. They didn't seem to go overboard or anything like that. Mary Elizabeth is crazy. She is running for that state Senate seat. And frankly, if it's between her and Dan Shaw in that Jeff County seat, she's going to win. So that was the other thing that happened over the last 2 weeks. We had the kind of mainstream front runners, Vescovo in Jefferson County and Aaron Griesheimer in Franklin County. They dropped out of the Senate races for other opportunities. So now the moderates are recruiting candidates. My understanding is they will have a candidate recruited in Jefferson County to run, and they will have a candidate recruited in Franklin County to run as well. So that seems very likely at this point. I think the moderates are not going to allow those districts to go hard right. Yes, Mary Elizabeth is going to be as far to the right as she can. That's her Senate race. Yes, we're going to have the other bills we're going to have on elections, Ellen, for you are all the initiative petition changes, and they will basically boil down to, instead of having 5 out of 8 congressional districts having your requisite signatures, you'll need 8 out of 8 to have all your requisite signatures to get something on a ballot. And if you're trying to get a constitutional ballot approved, it will require either I think it's a 2/3 majority in order, where it's a simple majority today, unless it's the legislature that puts the question on the ballot, in which case it'll be a simple majority. There's even a bill that requires any initiative petition that goes by referendum to be pushed through the legislature and approved by the legislature first, which is insane. So we're going to have tons. You're absolutely right. I apologize. I should have put that as a big bucket, Ellen. Election reform obviously is, remember, we're in a state where 48 to 50% of the people think that Donald Trump won the election. I mean, you just got to keep that in the back of your mind, is this state is heavily Republican.
well, they also introduced a bill to name a portion of Highway 70 in Jeff County the Donald Trump Highway.
That's probably
It's
Mary
coming.
Elizabeth too. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Other questions or things people want to ask or bring up? Joan, I see you waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, so can we talk a little bit about Eric Schmidt and mask mandates and?
You bet.
I mean, I've been listening on the NPR and I'm reading and so forth, and I mean, it seems like he has no real authority to be doing what he's doing. And so we are requesting people wear masks on our property. we do follow federal guidelines, and we've been following CDC guidelines this whole time, which does recommend the use of masks. And so I just want to make sure that because we're in St. Louis County, that we don't have any concerns about backlash.
Well, I mean, backlash is one thing, legality is another, right? So like, Joan, you run a private organization. You saw Scott Fitzpatrick. I wish he wouldn't have done this. He came out and told some school districts that they didn't abide by the court ruling, that they couldn't access his bond program or whatever. There has been no such thing associated with low-income housing credits or anything like that, which is where you would be vulnerable, right? I think as a private institution that is serving primarily vulnerable citizens, and non-citizens, I think you have every right to protect your workers and your citizens in a way you feel is consistent with the laws and the guidance you're getting out of public health. I would encourage you, it's easy for me to say, I'm not the one that's got to pay for the lawyer's fees, right? If something happens, but I would encourage you to, because the alternative to that is exposing yourself to somebody who does get sick and something bad happens, not just from a legal exposure, but also from an optics, that you could have done more. And that's the thing, everybody on this call, like, I know you guys, your thing is, if we can do it and it's the right thing to do, we want to do it, right? You don't ever want to walk away and something bad happens and you say, well, we could have done more. We knew we could have done more. And so most of Eric's positioning is on government entities. You are not one. The mandate that came down from Judge Green had nothing to do with private institutions and had everything to do with whether or not a local public health department has the authority to issue those kinds of mandates. So, I mean, I would encourage you to do exactly the policy that you feel is in the best interest of the people that work for you and the people that you serve.
Okay.
And that if you have a question, I think you got to ask a lawyer, but honestly, I don't know how you can do anything else.
I mean, our lawyer has said repeatedly to follow the guidance, and that way from staff liability, having any, backlash from
Safe
staff
harbor.
who feel that we expose them unnecessarily, as well as from the resident perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. It becomes a safe harbor of sorts for you. I mean, it's not an explicit safe harbor, but it's something. This is all political. I mean,
Yeah.
And I've known Eric forever. Was a friend, I guess. I mean, I'm not. And the sad thing for him is he's going to do all this stuff and it's not going to work. He's not going to be right, and he's going to lose. He's not going to outflank these guys. There's no chance.
Well, the sad thing are all the people who will be negatively impacted because of this messaging. That's really the sad thing, right?
I think that's right. Now, we are seeing, it's funny because right after he did that, I got an email from a hospital client in Springfield with an email from the Cleve County Public Health Department asking if I knew anything about it. And they basically said, based on this order, we're shutting everything down. We're not doing surveillance. We're not doing anything. In other words, hey, if that's what you all want, you got it. Here you go. And I think 8 or 9 public health departments have said, everybody's just fed up with this stuff. They're just.
That's what they were talking about on NPR yesterday, that the health departments are just like, yeah, forget it. We're not going to track any communicable diseases. We're not going to do anything anymore. And of course, that just leaves the public to be more vulnerable. So
It does, but at some point, this issue has to quit creeping along. Like every time something comes up, we're playing whack-a-mole, and there needs to be a confrontation. Like in politics, every once in a while, you got to get in the middle of a ring and just like start punching people. And I think that's where we are right now. I mean, that's what you're seeing right now is people are fed up and they're tired of it. And we're going to see that with Democrats in the Senate over this year. They're tired of Republicans telling them one thing and doing something else. Folks are just tired of this nonsense.
You guys heard it here first. David thinks we should put all of our elected officials in a room and have them punch each other.
Oh my God, I'm so for that. You could put that on the front page of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
We could
Absolutely.
probably sell the opportunity to take a shot.
I was gonna say, that would be one hell of a fundraiser for
I
all
was
of
thinking
us,
the
for
same
sure.
thing.
All All right, any other questions or comment or ask for feedback or anything from David as well? All right, David, thank you. As always, you're welcome to stay on. Scott, I know we didn't talk about this before, but you sent out an alert or whatever earlier. Did you just want to acknowledge and or say what's going on or anything else?
Sure. So the individual that we sent the alert out on was brought to our attention due to his participation in the most recent county council meeting. He used the platform that was for COVID, and I guess he did make one health-related comment at the end when he said that the health director didn't look healthy enough to be the health director. But that was the only thing I think he made comment-wise regarding COVID. Most of it was anti-Semitic. I think he started off. I mean, it was just a water. I mean, yeah, it was just a waterfall of anti-Semitic tropes and stereotypes, and just one tied to the other, conspiracy theories. So he made no threats. We didn't know about him prior to this. Our law enforcement partners didn't know about him prior to this. Everybody now knows about him. And I wanted the community to be aware as well. Should this go from I sit at home and research this stuff to I go out and I try to interact with organizations. So at this point in time, we have no reason to believe he will do that, but always out of an abundance of caution, we want to know if this individual does start showing up in our community and does start interacting with our organizations.
Scott, thank you as always for your vigilance and staying on top of things. Certainly JCRC and ADL was also aware of it, and we've been talking to as well. But I just want to take the opportunity to thank you, Scott, and your team for all the work that you do across the community, the proactive, the responsive work that you do. We really appreciate it. Okay, any announcements or anything to share? Mindy?
Thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. I feel like I've been speaking about mental health repeatedly to this group, and I really, really appreciate the input and the feedback that so many of you gave a few weeks ago when we talked about staff morale and staff well-being and burnout and how that's tied to mental health. As you know, this is really a focus of the work that we're doing in community impact. We got a lot of data from our needs assessments. It's consistent with what we're seeing in terms of national data and national trends, and we're really proud of what we're able to put out to the community now in terms of initiatives. So just wanted to bring to your attention 3 of them. Hopefully you all received the email, I think it was last week, about 2 funding opportunities around mental health. Just a quick refresher. One is a request for proposals to enhance the mental health and well-being of individuals in the St. Louis Jewish community. This is open to any community partner. The application is open now. It is open through January 20th. There are guidelines online as well as some desired outcomes. So if you have ideas, feel free to call us with any questions. Feel free to apply. We really, really want to see these applications to understand what the needs are and how we can be supportive. And there are funds available for this. So please consider applying if there's something that that you're doing or planning to do that aligns with that. The other one that I want to let everyone know about, and this is a pilot, so we really want to understand how it looks and how people may utilize it, is the Mental Health Care Access Fund pilot. So this is a pool of funds to help all of you, our community partners, support their constituents' financial needs for accessing clinical mental health care on a rolling basis. So this is about reimbursement. We understand that cost is a barrier for people to receive services they need. So we want to do what we can to support that. So if you are providing funds for your constituents to receive mental health services, please be in touch. There's an application, there are guidelines. We will reimburse for those funds. So it's really clear. All the information should be really clear. If you have questions, please reach out. And then the last thing, I just want to give you all a heads up. We are going to do, and we heard this from all of you, some community-based mental health trainings So it's going to be for different constituents, different populations. We're working with BBYO, who does some mental health training for adolescents and youth. And those who work with that population, those will be in January. And then we are working with the Blue Dove Foundation for some larger community-wide training. So keep an eye out for information on those, because those will be coming soon. So just wanted to share that, bring it to your attention, bring it up in your inbox, and we'll continue to be in touch. Thanks.
Thank you, Mindy. And just as a reminder, whenever I do go on parental leave, I'll be gone for about 4 weeks, and Mindy is going to be the lead staff person at the Federation, both on this call and like if there's any kind of emergency or need to reach out to Federation, Mindy is your person. I think you all have her information and know how to get in touch with her. And what else? What else do people either want to share or bring up? All right. Thank you, guys. And because we actually don't have anything even scheduled until the new year, I'm very comfortable saying this is the last time I will see most of you this year, and have a very happy new year. I hope that everything goes well for you and your families and your organizations as we turn to 2022 and look forward to hopefully a different year than the last two.
And good luck to you. It will definitely be a different year for you, Brian.
Amen. I'm looking for a nanny, part-time nanny. If anybody knows anyone, please send information my way.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good early Shabbos. We'll see you. Reach out if you need something.
Bye all.